What's the joke? How do you make a handkerchief dance?
Yeah, you put a little boogie in it.
Never heard that joke in my life.
Wait, really?
That was like the dad joke of dad jokes.
Yeah, that's like...
Wow.
Oh, that's so funny. They never heard of it. I love it.
Kudos.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for spooky things and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Jamie has her great lenses on. She is ready. She is prepared because there is a lot to discuss in this session, because I feel like it's going to end up being a whole therapy session with all of us. So,
Oh boy.
very excited.
We
Today,
are a family.
I mean,
we are
that's
a
what
horror
Dreamgirl
family.
says. Yes, we are a horror family.
That's a lyric in Dreamgirls.
It is.
Yeah.
Like a giant tree branching out towards the Boogeyman is where we're at. Because today we are talking about the 2023 supernatural horror film, The Boogeyman. Pew, 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 pew. So this movie was directed by Rob Savage, and this movie is based on the 1973 short story of the same name by one Stephen King, our favorite horror writer. And it stars Sophie Thatcher, Chris Messina, Vivian Lyra Blair, which I love that name, Lyra, and David Desmalchin, which, funny story, guys, I actually work with someone who went to school with David, and I didn't realize that he has just become that actor that is in... he has a little part in everything, which is super cool. A friend, my coworker, came up to me and said, "Hey, are you going to see this movie, The Boogeyman? Because I know the actor that's in it." So,
That's so
it was
Cool.
super cool having that
He'll always be
conversation
the
with him.
creepy guy from The Dark Knight for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That is the role that stands out the most.
Me too.
Even though I
Yes.
know him in like Suicide Squad and this.
Yeah.
Just a whole bunch of
Everything.
other things.
Yeah.
Totally. That moment in The Dark Knight is like wildly effective because like you see the Joker without his makeup very quickly, and then you have that like that you kind of see the influence he has over people, especially. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is not about The Dark Knight. This is about the Boogeyman.
Boogeyman.
I mean, dark things align,
Yeah,
so
sure.
it's adjacent for sure.
lack of light.
Lack of light. So much not light is happening in this movie, especially. So with that, obviously there's going to be spoilers for this movie, everything the Boogeyman, and maybe some origins of Boogeyman and all those things, which I'm super excited to talk about that, the origin of the Boogeyman. And Jamie, hit us with those trigger warnings.
Hey, if you don't like boogie, stay away.
Stay away from the
if you-
boogies.
Yeah. How do you?
Boogie
What is
fever.
the joke? What's the joke? How do you make a handkerchief dance?
Yeah, you put a little boogie in it.
Never heard that joke in my life.
Wait, really?
That was like the dad joke of dad jokes.
Yeah, that's like.
Wow.
Oh, that's so funny. They never heard of it. I love it.
Kudos. Love it.
I mean, we didn't
Yes,
write
yes,
it.
I mean, but thank you for sharing it.
No,
It's
if
definitely
Nikisha's
appropriate.
never heard it before, I wrote it.
Oh,
Okay, great.
yeah. And I
You're
just happen to
welcome.
know the punchline
You're
organically.
welcome. Why?
Well, yeah,
no,
because you're married, so
Yeah, I tested it on her at work.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
you share the secrets together. So
Yeah,
yes.
totally.
So this movie is features death heavily and grief. It's about spooky things in the darkness. Children being murdered, children being like stalked and eaten. I don't really know what the suck is sucking out their soul. I'm not totally sure what the boogeyman's trying to do with these children, but he is definitely killing them, and that is a trigger warning. There are guns and fire. we don't really. Is this movie rated R or PG-13?
That is a great question. I do not know.
The Boogeyman is rated. I don't know. Let me check. Well, I mean, there is infanticide or whatever it's called.
Yeah, but you don't like see it. They just like allude to it. I mean, like that is the trigger warning. I'm just trying to remember, like, because it's not super graphic,
right?
But like they're like referencing these.
I have it as I have it. The internet has it as PG-13.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
that
what
makes
I
sense.
thought. So it's like alluding to and referencing like infanticide and child death. But I don't think that we see it ever. We do see the monster at the end. So if you don't like creepy monsters, then this is not for you. I mean, if you are afraid of the dark, this movie will be spooky for you. I'm afraid of the dark, and the darkness is spooky for me.
Can't wait to talk about that. We got to get into that.
Let's unpack that.
Let's unpack it. Therapy session starts now.
Yes, there's a reference to a car accident.
Oh, sure.
And
suicide. Did we say suicide? Well, quote unquote.
And reference to suicide, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But not too much insides on the outside. If at all.
Right. But PG-13, so
that's
also
that's why I was like, I don't think they do
tracks. That. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into everything, producer Brian, can you please give us some wise words?
Sure. They're not wise. Do not be fooled. Hi everybody, we're on YouTube as well. Hi YouTube. Check us out there. You can find us wherever you get podcasts, but more importantly, check us out on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're still circling 15K, so join us. And we do some really fun. Join us. I'll sell your soul. Not sell it. I'll steal it. What is it?
Steal your soul.
Money, please.
No. Money, please.
But actually, we cover a lot of other movies that we don't cover on here. I unfortunately watched The Black Demon, so you can see my review of that there and stuff like that.
Oh, no.
Back to you, Nikisha.
Okay, so I have watched some things that I'm very excited to talk to you guys about, but before I spill mine, have you guys watched anything else this week?
No, because we traveled. Oh, we went to that record store in Denver, and they had some cool spooky items for sale.
Oh yeah, that was a cool spot. Twisted Records or Twisted something in Denver. Twist and Shout in Denver. That was super cool.
Got it.
I watched on Jamie's suggestion. I should have watched this years ago, but I watched Swiss Army Man. Which was spectacular. I loved it. It was very much up my alley. And I also, actually, let me go and check my Letterboxd account.
Oh boy!
And I'll be able to tell you. I'll tell you exactly what. Let me check my diary. So I watched The Black Demon, The Boogeyman, as we mentioned, and Swiss Army Man. I also watched. We talked about Sisu. I finished Horror in the High Desert 2, Minerva. You can much better than the first one, but it's not like it's not suggested reading. Black Demon is bottom. So on TikTok, I'm gonna do my best of the year so far. Halfway through the year, I've seen up until this point. I have seen. I'll tell you right now. Oh my god! Wait, no, so much pressure. I've seen like 25 or 26 new horror movies from this year, so I'm gonna count them down. And spoiler alert: Black Demon's in the bottom 3.
Got it. Was that like a Shudder original? Where'd you watch that?
No, that was a direct-to-digital shark movie starring Josh Lucas. It's really bad. Okay. And I love shark movies. I'll watch anything. It was really bad.
Oh no, that's unfortunate.
Alas.
Well, yes, alas. I mean, at least you have like 20 plus other movies that were better than that.
Oh yeah,
and we still got a whole another year. I mean, half a year left.
The movie I'm actually most excited to see right now is there is a Shudder original out that came out the day we're recording this. So Brooklyn 45.
Oh.
About a seance. It takes place in 1945 in Brooklyn, about a seance that involves a lot of like veterans and stuff. It looks super cool. I love a horror movie set in that time period. Like, I hope it's good. I hope I have a good time. But that's what I'm excited for right now.
Nice. Well, guys, after a lot of years, I finally thought to myself I should invest in Art the Clown. Yes. So
You've
I
been
was
terrified.
like, well, here's the thing. I said, okay, I got to start from the source. So I had to go on the wikis and see like where it originally came from.
Sure.
So the first movie I watched was All Hallows Eve, where it's the one with the shorts and the VHS tape inside of the trick or treat bag, and we are introduced to Art the Clown, which I enjoyed. I enjoyed that movie a lot. I think it was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a good time. But then I got into the first movie, Terrifier, and as much as I am a Saw person and, you know, torture porn, whatevers, that was a lot for me.
I've never seen it.
Oh.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Really?
Yeah.
Guys.
Because I don't know if that's for me.
Yeah.
Like, similarly, I feel like, and they just announced a third one. Like they're making
really?
a third one now.
I didn't know that because I was trying
Yeah.
to. I just knew that the second one was recent, and so I thought, oh, well, and it's you can watch them on Tubi, you know, for free with ads, and so I thought, okay, well, let me just see what the fuss is about because this is a prominent figure in the horror genre.
Yeah.
And wow, I see why. Again, I love Saw. I used to watch it every year for Halloween. And so I understand, I get that genre, but this kind of takes it to another level where I was a little bit like holding my pillow at night. What's going on? I had to watch it in pieces. I think I watched the actual Terrifier.
In pieces,
like,
pun intended.
In pieces, pun intended. 3 pieces.
If you watch it on Tubi, it's probably a good thing because you got the commercial breaks essentially.
Just to give a pause. I mean, like it kind of doesn't stop, and it really make like when you think that it's not gonna zoom in on the part or the body part or the action that is happening. I mean, it does it tenfold, and it just leaves it there, and you're just like, okay.
I know
So
one spoiler that was spoiled on one of those like Watch Mojo lists.
Yes.
Of like an unexpected kill.
So Jamie gave me permission to like kind of watch these on my own because she has no interest. Are you sticking with that, or do you want to watch them together?
Ooh. Are you guys gonna make me watch this movie?
No.
You really don't have to, because
No, not
Jamie,
at all.
I mean, it is a lot. It is a lot. I will admit and just throw it out there. If you don't ever watch this movie in your life, you will be fine. I just wanted to know what the fuss was about, and I didn't realize to the extent of what it was. So that caught me by surprise. But then it's one of those, like, I'm not going to just not finish it. So I'm, 40 minutes in thinking, wow, I still have like 50 minutes left of this kind of behavior. But you want to know what happens in the end. And I thought it was the first movie, it was a good, like roundabout kind of twist at the end that I enjoyed. But wow, the journey to get there was a lot.
Did you like them? And did you have a preference?
I liked All Hallows Eve a little bit better. I think because it was kind of like little shorts, and he was intermingled throughout. Actually, there was one that he kind of wasn't in at all. His picture there was just a painted picture of him, but it was about aliens, and that was like super fucking random and weird. But I liked All Hallows Eve. But then when you just get into Art the Clown, I'm good not watching that movie again, and I'm kind of hesitant to watch the second one
Oh, you
but-
didn't watch the second one.
No, I didn't watch the second
Oh,
one. No,
I misunderstood.
I haven't watched it yet.
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, just All Hallows Eve and the first Terrifier. And so
okay.
I don't know if I want to watch the second one. And there's a third one coming out. But I felt as a podcaster of horror movies that I needed to watch it once.
That's how I feel, to be totally honest, Nikisha. You know I didn't grow up
Yes.
with slasher movies. Slasher movies and gore is not what I look for in a horror movie, and I
Yeah.
understand that, like, that's just not who I am. It's totally okay. However, I feel an obligation to watch them.
Yes.
Like that, you know, like, and maybe that's just me as a, like, what's the term when you want to finish everything 100%?
Completionist.
I'm a completionist, which is
Fair.
a problem because I will never be a completionist when it comes to certain things. But
Yeah.
like, it's like that's a level of perfectionism that is like unattainable because perfectionism isn't real. As I've
Yes.
learned, from my beautiful
You
wife.
just learned that.
That was just my tangent of basically saying, like, I agree with you. I feel an obligation to at least get a taste of what those are like.
Absolutely.
And that's why I feel that way. So eventually I will watch them, but I have to be ready and in the right mindset.
Oh, you definitely have to. It was a casual afternoon viewing for me, and I was like, whoops, I need to go watch Bob's Burgers for 5 hours straight to
Sure.
like get my mind off of what I just saw. So yeah, definitely be in the mindset to watch it, but it was an interesting find for sure. And Brian, like you, I might end up just watching it because I just want to know the full story.
Yeah,
It's already out there, and so,
Well,
but
next
it might
time-
take me like another month.
Well, next time we're together, I'll watch the first one, and next time we're together, maybe like if you come down here or whatever, like we can watch the second one together and like
Great.
have like punch, like fruit punch. I'm just thinking of red things. Fruit
So
punch.
many red things, so many. I mean, talk about insides on the outside, guys. I mean, you can't go 5 seconds without just seeing all body parts, the whole anatomy. You will know everything about everything. So
So,
yeah.
so what you're saying, it's great for high schoolers to learn about anatomy.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, where your intestines are. How many
Yeah.
bullets does it take to actually die? I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
All the things.
Cool.
Great. Well, sorry about that tangent about Terrifier, but I had to let you guys
No.
know that I watched that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So I'll keep you posted. But we are talking about the Boogeyman now, which is definitely not like Terrifier and rated PG-13. So we need a plot summary of this.
What's the plot?
I will volunteer. I will as tribute,
Oh wow.
even though this is going to be hard to kind of explain. But
I believe in
nothing, now that I think about it, nothing can be as bad as the summary I gave of what Evil Dead. So I'm good. The bar is so low
you.
now.
Perfection. All right.
Never good.
Plot summary. Are you ready?
Yes.
Ready,
Mm-hmm.
set, go.
So we open the movie. There is a child that is crying because she sees some type of monster. We don't see the monster. And then eventually she gets slashed, unfortunately. So then we cut to a family with a dad and 2 daughters, and they are recently grieving their mother who passed away in a car accident. Yes. And so they're dealing with the grief. The younger daughter is afraid of the dark, and she kind of sometimes sees some monsters or what she thinks are monsters. And so she's dealing with that. And then there's a man that comes in for a therapy session for the dad, because the dad is a therapist. And the man says that his 3 kids were killed by an entity, but everyone thinks that it was this man, but it wasn't. The dad therapist is afraid, so he goes and calls the police, but then the man
1
kind
minute.
of runs away somewhere into the house, and eventually the oldest daughter comes home and finds that this man has committed suicide. So now they're dealing with that grief that somebody killed themselves in the house. And with that, now there's entities coming into the house. The little girl is really seeing like what we see as the boogeyman. The oldest is like, what is going on? So she goes and finds out information of the man's that passed away, his wife. And so she finds out that it was this boogeyman that is apparently like attacking the kids. And so back at home,
30
the youngest the youngest is attacked by the boogeyman. She's hospitalized. And so the oldest daughter was like, we have to go find this boogeyman. Eventually, they all go back to the house and they light the boogeyman on fire. And
Light him up.
Yes, light him up. And it's helped by the dead mom to light him on fire. And apparently the boogeyman is gone, but he might still kind of be around at the end. So that's it. The boogeyman is
nailed
dead.
it. That was great, Nikisha.
Woohoo.
That was
That's
great.
great.
That was great. Really proud.
And that's the plot.
There's like so many like other little things that happen
Yeah.
that we'll get into, but gosh, it's one of those movies where you kind of can forget what happens, but then
Yeah.
when you do remember, it's like, okay. Which is kind of a gripe for me when we get into our first section of likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
So obviously this is all of our first time seeing this movie because it came out most recently in the past couple of weeks. So, Jamie, do you want to start off with your likes and gripes of this movie?
Jamie.
you should start.
Jamie. Oh,
Because you did
Nikisha.
such a good job.
Nikisha.
Good
I
stuff,
want to
good
hear
stuff.
your experience, Jamie. Please tell me about
Me?
it.
Okay.
Yes.
So we saw this movie in theaters. Actually, so we were in Denver visiting my friends. Shout out to Sarah. And we had a lovely time. But it was like rainy and like spitting a little bit. So we were like, let's go see a movie. Like that would be fun. So we went to the Alamo Draft House, which we haven't been to one since we moved. And it
love Alamo
was
Draft
once
House.
again
What a delight.
lovely experience. We started before we watched the movie. We hung out in their bar. Barfly is the one in
Barfly.
Denver.
Yeah.
And they also happened to be hosting one of the hosts of a golf pub crawl.
A
That was
golf
happening.
pub crawl. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were sitting at the bar and like there was all these people there and they were like playing like shooting one hole of golf. Is that what you say? I have never golfed before. in
There
my
was
entire life.
there was a putting green at each of the
There's a
bar
putt-putt.
stops. There's like a putting green, and people
Okay.
dressed up as like like golfers, like all across the spectrum of what a golfer could look like. And we were furiously Googling it while sitting at the bar.
We were like, "What's happening?"
What's going on?
Yes.
Tell us what's happening. That's
Yes,
fantastic.
because we did not know. And so we observed that, enjoyed our beverages, took them into the theater because you can, and it's very cool. And sat in our little seats and ordered our little food. And I missed that theater so much. It was such a lovely experience.
So great.
And then, of course, because it's Alamo, they had all of the like precursor stuff that they make themselves. So they had like Stephen King stuff, like I think they were doing countdown to like was it the worst Stephen King adaptations?
No, it was the top 10 strangest Stephen King adaptations, and then they showed a trailer for like the other Boogeyman, there were multiple,
like 2005 or something.
yeah,
Boogeyman,
and then a
and
1970
then
something
an old
movie,
one. Yeah. It was very cool.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. So a lot of my likes are just like the movie going experience was very pleasant.
Yes.
Had
We
some
love
good
that.
snacks, some popcorn. So what did I like about this movie? I didn't make notes because we saw it in theaters, so I'm trying to reflect back now. There's a lot of tropes in this movie that I'm not crazy about when I get into my gripes, but there are moments where the therapist father, Chris Messina, is like doing a good job as a dad, with the exception of dealing with the grief stuff.
Yes.
Because like when in the beginning, there's this moment where like the main daughter, Sadie, comes down the stairs wearing her mom's dress, and like there's that moment where the dad like looks at her and is like kind of in shock, but also is like, you look great. And I was like, oh, okay, like what a happy functioning family that's like dealing in the face of grief. They're all doing well. And then it all falls apart very quickly. quickly.
Very.
Pretty soon after that one moment. So another, Ted is in agreement. Another like that I have about this movie is that that they are in therapy as a result of experiencing this trauma. Like, I'm glad that someone had the wherewithal to be like, oh, you experienced this like really awful trauma as children. You should probably talk to somebody about that and get support. So I'm glad that they are in family therapy. They might also probably need individual therapy. But I'm glad at least they have like a space for support. I also, as somebody myself who has had a fear of the dark since they were a kid, I really appreciated the youngest daughter, Sawyer. I had to keep looking at all these S names. I'm going to get them all confused. Sawyer having like all of the lights on all over her room. I love how there's like a ball that has light power. I want that. I wish
that
I
little
had that
moon
as a
ball
kid.
was so cute.
That was very cool. I wish I had that as a kid.
I love that.
Every horror movie needs a light ball, and I don't mean that literally. I mean like every movie needs like that one prop that like you will never forget.
Yes. I need them to sell that immediately.
It was a great prop. But I liked that. I also really liked this house. I just thought it was a nice it had some good old bones. Lots of rooms.
Dumb bones.
Dumb bones. It had some good dumb bones. What else did I like?
We both jumped on that fast.
You have
dumb
to.
bones, yeah. I really like that actress, Marin Ireland, who played. Well, I like her, and I like the dad, David. I like both of them, so I was like just happy to see them in this film. And I thought that they played those characters again, tropey, but like well. I thought they did a good job because we don't get like a ton with them. So the moments that we do get, I think they made count. And overall, I think that there were some good spooky elements to, like anytime the Boogeyman monster was like throwing a voice, like using ventriloquist magic to
for the voice,
to have people believe that like that they were talking to the other person. I liked that. I thought that was a clever thing, because how else do you get somebody if you're like, I'm thinking about myself being afraid of the dark, and if I'm a kid and I'm like, okay, there's something spooky in my closet, like I'm hiding under the covers, nothing is getting me to come out of the covers unless I heard my mom's voice, unless I heard the voice of someone I recognize. That would get me to throw them off. So I was like, good job, movie, like you done duped me, and I would fall for that. So I appreciate that. Let's get into gripes. My biggest gripe of this movie, the thing that fully took me out of it, this is a movie that takes place now in 2023. It's based on a story that took place in the 70s, but it's taking place in the present. Right now, generationally, I think that, like, obviously there still is bullying, but I think what bullying looks like is a lot different from, like, maybe bullying that has happened when we were younger or, like, generations past. I cannot believe, I am unwilling to believe that the teen bullies in this movie would be so fucking cruel that they would be like, get over your mom's death. She's dead. It's been a month. No one cares. Like, no one, first of all, no one is doing that. But second of all, like, I just have such a hard time believing that, like, Gen Z or Gen Alpha, like, that's not how they're acting. Like, we've gone so far the opposite direction in, like, supporting mental health. Like, millennials already are so in favor of breaking mental health stigma that I think, like, Gen Z has, like, also really moved in that direction. There's no fucking way that these girls would be like, your mom's dead, get over it. Like, it was just so wholly unbelievable. I wish that that's not what they did in this movie. It bothered me so much and, like, truly took me out of it because it made me want to laugh. It was that unbelievable.
Yeah.
I just like I'm like truly in shock that they did that, and part of me is wondering like,
Yes.
is this where in my brain that went to was like Rob Savage. I love Host. Like, thought that was an excellent horror movie. But I fucking hate Dashcam because that character was so unlikable to me that it was hard to watch. Is this like somewhere in the middle where you're like making characters that just like are terrible to watch in an effort to get us to like empathize more with the character? But we don't need to. Her mom died. Like, I'm good. Like, that's all we need. We don't need anything else. Like we
a
don't
layer
need
on
her
top
to
of
be.
it.
Yeah, it just like doesn't make any sense. I feel like there's so many other things that they could have done to like make her feel isolated and alone. Again, just by virtue of her mom dying, that justifies that behavior. We don't need the bullying. It's very weird. And doesn't make sense to me. And I admittedly have not read the short story, so I have no idea if that's like a part of it. But again, like, is that, if it is, then that feels like a very much like of that time, and that is not what's happening in the present as far as I'm concerned. At least not in person. Maybe the bullying looks differently like online because people use anonymity to be terrible, awful to people, but like no one's saying that in person. I just like, I find that so hard to believe. I could be totally wrong, but like as far as I know, and I don't work with kids, but like as far as I know, like kids are not talking to each other like that in person.
Definitely not in person. And to your point, it was just surprising that all of them were that way, because I think I would have believed it more if it was just like the one asshole girl who might have just narcissistic tendencies or whatever the case, or her own trauma, and like that's how it manifests, you know, through her. But for all of them, and even the girl who's supposed to be her friend, that was one thing that I wrote down, like right before the slumber party happened. I wanted to ask you guys, like, how do we feel about this one friend? Because she's questionable. But then the slumber party stuff happened, and I was like, oh, they're all just shitty.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Like, I wish that they didn't double down in the slumber party. I wish, like, there was... I wish that there was just more of the bonding, because, like, that still then means that they're all together, and, like, something spooky can still happen to the younger sister without all of them, like, bullying her and like locking her in a room. I just like don't understand.
Yeah, that's my biggest gripe too with this movie, and I don't know if the movie was trying to make it gray in some ways and failing, because you know, at the end of that trapped in the room sequence, they're like, I don't know what happened, like we tried to open the door, and like that's more interesting if they're not totally monsters at the beginning. Like, you know, I felt like everything, what I found interesting about this movie is I felt that everything that the friends did was to just set up scary moments. Like, you didn't need to have the best friend. There was like this weird dynamic between her and the best friend, like in the bathroom stall, like, you know, when you talked to me, it was great. And like, and then like, but they have these other friends who are kind of crappy. Like, I just don't think that was an added level of complexity to that movie that did not need. I would have preferred if you take all of that out and replace it more with the dad not being as active in their lives to justify the boogeyman coming around. Like, all that stuff was like super weird and like not useful at all for this movie. I don't know, that was it really put a bad taste. I almost like removed from when I'm remembering about this movie. I almost like removed that part because I like so much of the other stuff, and that just like even Jamie and I during the movie were just like, I could feel our energy like be pulled out of the universe that they're creating on the screen. You know?
Yeah, it was just very weird, and like I really didn't enjoy that. And like, again, there's so many other tropes that I have a problem with, but like, this one just didn't even make sense to me in this context. Again,
no,
not that
helping
I
the
need
story.
all of those. No, it's really not. Like, I could have, you know, you can write another situation where like maybe they're playing a spooky game, but it's not like, you know, like a shitty prank. It's just like, oh, this is the room where that guy died. Like, I dare you to go in it for like 5 minutes, and then they can't open the door. Like, that's just as efficient. Doesn't need the bullying. Still scary, and like you can still do that. And those girls aren't assholes. Like,
and
I just
high.
don't. You don't need them. Yeah, and they're high. Like, you don't need them.
There's so many layers. On top of a hat. On top of a hat.
Yes.
Well, I think what also that feeds into is, I got confused a little bit during this movie. The point of I want to ask this for you just to make sure. The point of the boogeyman in all of this is that the parents have so much grief that they are not paying attention to their kids, and that's why the boogeyman can come in. Like, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't understand why we're showing the with the friends this girl kind of spiral even more into grief. The idea is that the kids are trying to deal with it, but the dad isn't looking. Therefore, like that's what happened with the two parents at the beginning. They were in so much grief that their 3 kids were taken by the boogeyman, and then now he's in such grief and his is less defined than the other people's because he's still like a functioning therapist and it seems like he's doing okay, but he's not. So like I thought that all of that like busy work, if you will, with the daughter and the friends kind of took away from what the point of the movie was. It's not about the kids' grief, and they are grieving, but it's about the father being so sad and so distracted that he's not watching his kids. And maybe there's an argument that the like friends were like leading her down the wrong path, and therefore like, and the dad wasn't watching and all of that stuff. But like he proves that he was, because he talks about how she was high in the hospital scene afterwards. But like, I just think that I'm completely in agreement with Jamie. That whole part of this movie was totally miscalculated.
Yeah, I think my only sorry, I'll just say one more thing to piggyback off. The only bridge that I can cross between the two, with the point of the dad not watching, is just the fact that she has that encounter with the boogeyman while her friends are around, but like her dad doesn't want to deal with the grief, so he's like, well, if you want to have your friends over, like that can be the thing that like whatever you need with your friends, like whatever. And so with that, him like letting them come over in a way of him not having to talk to her, but be like, your friends are here and that'll be good for you. I'll keep, Sawyer away, and then the boogeyman comes because he's not there. He's like letting but that's like the only bridge. But even still, you can still not have it in there and it still be just as powerful.
Or I like Jamie's version better. The truth of the dare thing, like
and then not opening the door,
and even if she's uncomfortable with it, she's just trying to get back into the groove with her friends. You know what I mean? And then they can't. Maybe she thinks they closed the door and she's trying to open it. And if they're not assholes beforehand, you know what I mean? And honestly, like she didn't need to push her and spill the old yogurt. Like honestly, like it could have been an accident or a joke or something like that. So we don't think the friends is bad. I don't know. Now I'm getting like really heated about the boogeyman. Anyway, sorry, Jamie.
No, it's totally fine. But yeah, that was my biggest gripe. My only other major gripe is for someone who is like, phobic, scared of the dark. It's not believable to me that she wouldn't actually have the light on in her bedroom. As somebody who like had chronic nightmares as a kid and therefore was like afraid of like sleep and the dark at night, like I just slept with my lights on when I was a kid. I just had the full like overhead light on, and like the lights next to me, like I was not sleeping
just
in the
the
dark.
night lights.
Yeah.
No, I was not sleeping in the dark. Hello,
Also,
like I love all the lights, but I'm not freaking sleeping in the dark if I am fucking afraid of something in the dark. Like that's just not a world that I'm living in.
It was an amazing sequence, an incredible sequence. There is no world in which her sister and her father are home and she's playing video games in the dark.
In the dark.
Again,
No way.
For a girl that's afraid of the dark, there was far too much darkness in this film.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Not at all. No.
Not
Any
not
other likes and gripes?
I mean, I forgot it until you mentioned it in the description of the movie, but the part that like her mom somehow helps save them
comes back.
I hated that. I just that was too much for me. It doesn't need to be that. I wish that like there was a different way where they were like referencing her, honoring her mom. Like I feel like that's how they started with like keeping the art and like all this stuff. Like they don't need to do like, Mom, are you here? Blah blah blah. Because like she's the one who's doing all of this stuff. Like she's the one who like I feel like it takes away then from the role that she's playing in, like, not that she's trying to take over for her mom in any kind of way, but like her being empowered as a result of losing her mom. And again, not that that's the trajectory that always has to go, but like, this is a movie. I feel like it's stupid to then be like, oh, the spirit of your mom is the one that saved you. Like, no, you guys all came together as a family, and that's what saved you. That's the whole freaking point. It's a stupid metaphor for grief. You've all come together as a family again to acknowledge and deal with the grief. But now you throw the supernatural mom's ghost is here. I'm done. I'm over it. Get out of here. It undermines it.
Yes. And I never thought about it that much, but I will say the first scene when she's YouTubing how to contact spirits, I thought to myself, well, then what kind of movie are we in now?
Yeah, sure.
'Cause it really was just like, I don't think that this is necessary to what the story is. I mean, and how it's being presented. Like, there was no need to have, again, a hat on top of a hat on top of a hat. Like, that layer of, now we're going to dig into contacting. And then I was thinking, like, how's this going to come back? Because it has to come back. Because then if it's just there for that one scene, then it's really dumb. But even it coming back, like, even you saying that, it's like, oh, yeah, that was dumb. For it to come back at the end. So, yeah, it could have been much simpler.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of elements where the story could have just been exactly just about grief. You know, kind of like, and I equate it to, Babadook, Sir Robert Duke.
Thank you for
just
using
how simple
his
it can
legal
be.
name.
His
Yes,
formal
his government
name.
name.
Yeah, the Babadook.
Sir Robert.
Happy
Babadook.
Pride.
Sir Robert
Happy-
Duke. Yeah, happy Pride, Babadook.
Pride. I forgot all about that. Oh, fantastic. Yes. Sorry. But yes, Brian, would you like to go next with your likes and
Yeah,
gripes?
I'll make this quick because I overlap a ton with Jamie. I thought the opening with the child being killed was an excellent tone to set for this movie just in general. I thought this movie is exceptionally well directed. I think that he executes every scare the way that he wanted it to, and I think he absolutely got the effect. Spoilers for Smile, if you're listening and haven't watched Smile. I thought that the monster design in this was pretty good at the end. It had some Smile vibes with like the mouth and the mouth, or the face and the mouth. I really dug that.
Mouth and the face and the face and the mouth and the mouth and the face and the face and the mouth.
I like that this movie one-upped the grief every time. So like the friends bumping into her, and then the camera, like it really cranked up like her emotions and how she was feeling and reacting to them. I like the grief themes. This movie knows exactly what it is and never tries to go beyond that. And when it does, it gets a little sloppy. But I like that. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's the perfect run time. I like that the dad is taken first from them because the grief at the end of the road is really him. And he's able to, but I like that he is able to push through it to save them. He when the monster's like sucking her life force out or whatever that was, the dementor of it all.
I liked it. Yes.
I like that he saves her because like it's his job. Once he starts paying attention to their grief, they actually get to defeat it, and I think that was good.
Yes.
I agree with Jamie that the mom stuff undercut that. But I will say I like that I like that it wasn't like the lighter turned on and floated over. Like I like that it was a little bit like maybe it's just what she sees in it, and she believes that her mom is there with her. Even the movie like explicitly is like it's turning to the left. Oh my god! Like I get that. I like the concept overall of parents are so grief-stricken that they lose track of their other kids and whatnot, and like I think that's fascinating. And so that's what I liked about this movie. I also think that some of the scares were great. The ball under the bed, the dream sequence where she wakes up, that was probably the biggest scare. Locked in the room was scary, and the video game sequence was awesome. It has some really solid sequences. My gripes: everybody makes every bad decision they could possibly make.
Yes.
The therapist trope, the therapist who can't share, over it. Her friends were awful. I think this movie was too dark at the beginning. I think that this movie needed to gradually get darker the more that the Babadook, the more that the Boogeyman, exactly. So scary, so dark. The more that it was influencing their lives and the closer it was getting, I should have gotten darker. I feel like I missed a lot at the beginning because some of the sequences were so dark already. And then there were moments in this movie where like they wouldn't be in the dark in this scene. So like that was something that bothered me. I actually thought it was the same house, but it wasn't. I thought the movie's editing at the very beginning made it seem like they were moved into the house where that trauma occurred. That's not the case. I needed more dismissive family moments to prove the father was in his own world, but movie is what it is. That's fine. I don't, and my other gripe is I don't believe, I didn't like that their house had to burn down to show them that they had to move on. That's a bummer because like isn't the like I wish
I liked the house.
I like the house. I also thought like the mom's stuff didn't need to get burned. Like that all felt like similar to the fire, like the actual like lighter stuff. That all kind of undercut. I wish they would see it in a new light. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, but that's I just want to keep that quick.
Yeah. I mean, I'll keep it quick too because it's basically all of the same thing for me. I do love themes of grief. One scene that we haven't mentioned is the tooth scene, or maybe you did, Brian.
Oh no, I didn't.
When she closes the door.
That was great.
That was a really great sequence. Yeah, and like you said, Brian, I really loved the dream sequence of like the boogeyman, kind of like the jump scare of him going through the door. And
her coughing up the
coughing up the tooth.
Yeah.
I even though it was very Dementor-esque, I really did like the sucking the life out of you. I mean, because it's also just like representation of grief. So I thought that was really cool. I also love the every time the scene would kind of go light to dark, like you're flipping on a switch, like and seeing the things go, especially in the very end scenes and in the light therapy scene, which I'm excited for us to like dig into that, Jamie, with your thoughts of how that went, because it was a little extreme for me, but I loved how it was shot when you see the boogeyman in the therapy session. I also liked how at the end the father kind of like in their therapy session together admitted that he wasn't ready to be a father, and like the mom was the one who was kind of carrying everything, and he was just like, she made it look easy. And so that's kind of why he was already a little disconnected from the start, because he wasn't ready to be a father. So I just liked that connection in the storyline. And I also like at the end, even though it is like, well, okay, moral of the story is, but when the ventriloquist voice comes at the end of the therapist, but it wasn't the therapist, and the older daughter like comes back into the room in the very last scene, and then the closet door kind of opens, but she doesn't look in, she just closes it, and it's kind of like a, you know, the grief is still there, you're still dealing with it, but it like never really goes away, but you know, like whatever. So I love shit like that. It's happy endings.
You know, I liked that too, because it also commented on the dad, that now the dad is more involved in like playing his role and overseeing them. Like the boogeyman's still there, but like they're a little bit more protected now, and I appreciated that too.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the gripes were all the same things that you guys said. I would also just like to say or ask, this is a random side note, but in your movie theater experience, did you see a new trailer for the Nun 2 movie at all?
No.
Was that a part of your experience? Okay, I just have to say that, because we talk about this a lot, there was a great jump scare in the trailer for The Nun 2, but I feel like it's just going to be a trailer failure like we always talk about, and that might be like the only good thing that happens in The Nun 2. So I just wanted to know if you guys saw it, but you didn't, so maybe check that out.
I don't even think I don't think the trailer had come out yet when we saw it.
I don't even know if we got trailers at that.
Because it was the Alamo.
Alamo.
So they do their own little
Did we?
thing.
I forget. No, I think we did, but now I can't remember what a single one of them was.
Oh, we saw the Talk to Me trailer again. We did get trailers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I like doing the thing that they do with the
the A24.
What, with the hands?
Yeah.
Can't.
With it backwards.
Very excited about that.
But I know we complained a lot about it, but I will say, like, I had a great time watching this in movie theaters. Like, it was just a self-contained scare fest. It was unrelenting in some parts. And we have a lot of gripes with, like, the intricacies of it, I'm assuming. But, like, I had a really good time. I was delightful.
Yeah,
delightful?
It was
Yes.
spooky delightful.
It was
You
spooky
said
delightful.
you were delightful.
I said I was delightful.
Yeah.
Oh, that was not my intention. The boogeyman was.
I was delightful.
I was delightful.
I forgot a T. It was delightful.
It was delightful. Yeah, I mean, after I finished it, I was like, this doesn't feel something to write home about, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, and I always enjoy the themes of grief. And it was one of those, this will be good to talk about on the podcast. So like,
Yes.
if I can find things to talk about on the podcast from this movie, then it goes into the good pile for me.
Sure.
Great. So let's go into our next section of Brains, where we just asked Jamie, was it right or wrong for them to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G in this movie?
Yeah, let's yell
Because
at them.
that's all that I was thinking the whole time. First off, there was a quote that was called, "Where there is fear, there is your task." How do you feel about this? This is a random thing that we didn't talk about pre-recording, but the idea of like, what is your fear and let's like attack it. Do you feel like that's your kind of, I don't know, I don't know what that is. Your MO, your therapy thing.
That in particular, no, but I kind of like it because it's like what I mean, thinking about like anxiety and the things that like stress us out, is there then something to like address here, which is I feel like the what they're getting at, like, you know, where might there be something that we have to kind of dig deeper into to unpack and make sense of, and then like figure out how to deal with. So I don't like hate that as that therapist, like, I'm gonna drop this nugget in here moment.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, so let's talk about, and you already, I mean, I'll take it. Great. Whatever Jamie says goes. That's that's how we ride here. So we were talking about this earlier, but the therapy sessions that happened with the girl. So my immediate question when I was watching the scene was, why do they not have individual sessions? I wasn't even thinking of the good things of like, oh, they're in therapy. This is great that they're.
I know. I
know?
thought the same. I was like, even though this is a pro therapy movie, I was just like, what does Jamie think about this therapy stuff?
Exactly. Like, what should they? And then the therapist wanted the father to be in the session, which I understand that, having all of them together. But I immediately was like, shouldn't they be kind of conquering this in individual sessions as well? So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm glad that they were in therapy. I mean, like, I think that there's value in the family therapy because, like, the family unit is now, like, irreparably changed, and so like how then to navigate kind of collectively their relationships with one another as a result of this loss is important. But also like, I think that there probably needs to be individual therapy too. Like, the needs of the older daughter look different from the needs of the younger daughter, on top of the, like, you know, the younger daughter's fears around like the dark and things like that. Like, that separately probably needs to be addressed outside of like dealing with the grief. Like, there's just like so many things that they're all dealing with that it seems silly to not also have individual therapy to like address those individual needs.
Yeah. And so you're bringing it up at the light therapy thing, because that is what really stuck out to me, is her having to deal with that experience with her sister. And would that have been helpful because she was not, you know, figuring it out on her own. She was kind of just relying on her older sister. So how did you feel about that light therapy session? And is that even a thing? Have you heard of that before?
I don't know if like that in particular is a thing. However, that just felt like exposure therapy, which is a thing. But also exposure therapy isn't just like, oh, what's the thing you're fearful that you have a phobia of? Like, here it is, like, deal with it. Yes. Exposure therapy should be like a sequential, like, increasing of the anxiety and fear. So we're not going from like 0 to 100. We're going from 0 to 10, and then 10 to 20, and then 20 to 30. Like, literally in those increments, like, some of what you do is like create a hierarchy. So like, if you have a phobia, let's say of like driving, and like the 10 of the 10 scariest thing is like getting behind the wheel of a car and like driving around, like, okay, let's go all the way to like, what's 10 out of 100? Like what does that 10% look like? Is that, you know, like looking at a picture of a car, is that like, you know, that might be a 10, maybe a 20% is like listening to the sounds of cars without looking at anything. Maybe a 30 is like watching videos of cars. Like it's all and you know, the person who's like experiencing the phobia is the one who should be evaluating like where those things fall on the spectrum. But like,
yes.
And I also imagine that it's different for kids, but like in general with exposure therapy, it's like this, you know, gradual like increasing. So I, you know, in terms of like doing the light on and off and then doing it like rapidly, or not rapidly, but like increasing that time, I feel like you'd probably need more sessions with that before going straight to like, now we're going to do it for longer. And like, I don't know.
And completely
so,
in the dark. Yeah.
Yeah. That also seemed like a bit extreme and likely to re-traumatize instead of work through some of that. So I don't know of that specific thing, but that's what I imagine like it would look like, but like over a longer period of time.
I also just want to point out that fear of driving, it has two different phobia names I just looked up. One is amaxophobia or hamaxophobia, which makes you feel anxious or fearful when you drive or ride in a vehicle, such as a car, bus, or plane. And then there's veophobia, so VEHOPHOPIBA, which is just a fear of driving. So like vehicle, but veophobia, which is a fear of driving. I just Googled those things. I am no scientist. I just wanted to fill it all.
No scientist. What?
Yes.
I'm not a scientist.
just in case you didn't know, we are not.
Thank you.
That just reminded me of two things. One, when you're talking about exposure therapy, in some daytime talk show of the Maury, Dr. Phil, whatever, like, there's a video that was circulating around.
Oh, oh my gosh. The
person afraid of pickles?
I remember
yes, I think I was going to say olives, but I think it's pickles.
Well, no, there was one where olives, because she felt like it looked like eyeballs in a jar.
And she was like running away.
Yeah,
I can't. That just reminded me when you were just like the little exposure to things, and that video just like popped into my head. But then, Brian, you talking about the different names. I looked up the origin of the Boogeyman, like where it came from or whatever. And
it's that joke, right?
What?
It's the handkerchief
joke that you said earlier.
Yeah, that's the origin of Boogeyman.
That is the origin of Boogeyman. But it just reminded me that the first thing that Wikipedia says is that there are multiple names for the Boogeyman, and I just have to say just some of them. Okay. So one of them is the Boogie Monster, which is also just like, that's a jam. Like, we're going to boogie together. I love it. Boogie Woogie Bugabare. And I'm like, okay, great. That
Can you imagine in this movie, like, guess who's chasing us? The Boogie Woogie Bugabare.
Boogabear. And my all-time favorite, which is what Destiny's Child warned us about, and it's Bugaboo, guys.
Bugaboo!
That's it. The Bugaboo.
As soon as you said Destiny's Child, I knew exactly what you were going to say next.
Also, we should also point out that your friend's friend, who played the guy in this movie, David.
Yes.
He's in the Ant-Man movies, and he says Baba Yaga a lot. And I know it's not the same thing, but in this movie I was like, Baba Yaga to Jamie. Because I love saying Baba Yaga.
You did say Baba Yaga.
Yeah, but I understand that that's like an Eastern European witch, but like not the same as the Boogeyman, but like still, I don't know why I felt
adjacent.
the need to bring that up. Thank you, sorry.
Yes. Love that. I just had to share those names with you guys. But the only origin that they say it's just adults trying to scare their children into good behavior.
And it means like scarecrow in a medieval language. Okay, so I have the major question. Is the Chris Messina dad a good therapist?
So I think he's a fine therapist. I think he's a shitty dad.
Oh, must be
okay.
I mean, I have mixed feelings on him as a dad, but like he obviously is not doing a good job dealing with his own stuff. He probably shouldn't be working right away. B, he definitely needs to be joining those family therapy sessions, and he's not. And just like offloading his kids to another therapist is not okay. C, he like isn't able to talk to his kids directly about it whenever his oldest daughter tries to talk to him about it. So that makes him a duty dad. But as in terms of him as a therapist, I think that, you know, I think that like he is fairly good about like keeping boundaries up, especially like given that he's doing it in his home, like the home office therapy style. I imagine like boundaries might be challenging. I don't have, I mean, I work from home. However, I'm an online practitioner only. So I do not meet with clients in person. I do not meet with clients in my home.
Yes.
And I feel like, I imagine it would be like challenging to like, I'm sure there has to be a lot of like
expectation setting.
Say? Well, yes, but why can't I think of the right word? Like doing a lot of consulting with people to evaluate like who's the right fit, because you want to make like you yourself as the person who's like who's offering the therapy as the therapist, like you still want to feel comfortable in your home. And there's certainly moments that might make you feel uncomfortable as a therapist, and that's normal. But I think that's different from like if you are feeling physically unsafe in the therapy space as the therapist, like you have to also come up with your own procedures and practices in order to like maintain your own safety, depending on like the clients that you're working with.
So what you're saying is don't show up to a therapist's home and expect them, like in this movie, to just do an intake session on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would never do that anyway, even virtually, if like a random person showed. I mean, I don't know how they would do that, but yeah, I mean, for me, not everybody does consultations with new clients. Sometimes they do just like have people show up, and it also depends on like the context. Like in the past, in former roles that I've had, I did have to meet with people who just showed up. That's not my like ideal choice in terms of working with someone and building a new relationship. I prefer to like have some semblance of control, and that's my own stuff. But like I do consult calls with people. I don't even give people the option to like schedule themselves. Like some people will have like Calendlies and things like that where people can schedule both intakes or consultations themselves based on the availability that someone's offering them. I don't like to do that because again, I like to have control. I want to know like when I'm availing myself to somebody. All of those things are like part of the practices that I've established that like help me feel like safe and secure and in control. So I definitely would not feel comfortable with like somebody just walking into my house and like expecting to be seen. I also would definitely want them to like fill out paperwork ahead of time, like intake paperwork. Some therapists will do it in person with somebody or like in that intake session together. That's an option. But again, for me, like my absolute preference would be for somebody to fill that out ahead of time and for me to like review it so that I can see like, okay, like what are they looking for support in? Maybe they're coming in with something that like I can't even help them with. I have no expertise in, which sometimes that happens. And that's why I do a consult call so that I can say like, oh, I'm not a specialist in this, or like I don't work with this, like not because your issue is like too hard, but just like I don't have the skills to be able to like, this is my specific focus. So like I wouldn't even know how to support you in this. Like let me help find somebody who's better suited to help you with that. So these are all the reasons why like that's why I kind of orient myself in that way. Not everybody does, and it's not good or bad, but like that's just what helps make me feel comfortable. So it's definitely, I think like for him as the therapist, like riskier for him to just be like, let's do this. But again, it's just another way to avoid having to like sit by himself and potentially think about, you know, the trauma that he experienced. So he is bad work-life balance, a la Smile. Not as bad, but you know,
but
not
pretty
great.
bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Should we get into Rotten Tomatoes?
Let's do it.
Rotten Tomatin.
Rotten Tomatin. It makes
Rotten
me laugh
Tomatin.
every time. It's so stupid. I love it. Rotten Tomatin.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
Yes.
Okay, we have the Rotten. What do you think the Rotten Tomato score is?
I'm gonna say 76.
Whoa.
I'm gonna
I don't know
say.
why I did that.
I don't know why you did that either. I'm gonna say 69. Nice.
Whoa, nice.
Ooh,
Oh
fancy.
my god. It's a 62.
Okay.
Ooh.
Right,
Okay.
right, dead in the center of you two. It's a 62. The audience score is a 66. So the critics say the Boogeyman might fall short of its terrifying source material, but a spooky atmosphere and some solid performances help keep the chills coming. Oh yeah, we should say that the performances in this movie are very good and keep it grounded. I think
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The audience says, if you don't mind spending a lot of time waiting for things to happen, the Boogeyman is worth watching for some solid jump scares. What are you
Okay.
talking about, audience? No, yeah, okay. Cool. Should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Yeses.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
Okay, the 4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. We're gonna do skulls, scares, and shakes at a 1 through 10, rating them. Skulls is about how this movie handles mental health, human behavior. Scares is how scary was it. Shakes, how much are we gonna shake it off? Will it last? And then we'll go around and do some suggestions. So Jamie, why don't you start? Therapize it.
Sure. Therapize. Okay, so for skulls, I'm giving this a 3. Because I don't really think people are doing a lot of logical, thoughtful peopling. Yeah. I think, I mean, I would say the most realistic thing is like, yeah, people avoid wanting to deal with grief all the time. That's totally normal, happens all the time. But like the bullying doesn't quite make sense to me. The weird double standard with a therapist doesn't. Maybe a little, maybe some. I myself have not experienced the loss of a partner, so I can't speak to that. But like,
Yeah.
I just think that knowing what his profession is, do a little bit of a better job in like supporting your kids with what they're dealing with. And then on top of that, like the supposed suicide that happens in their house, there's still no support around that. Like it's weird, and feels not real. So 3. For scares, I gave this a 3. There were some moments that definitely got me. I did go to the bathroom early in the movie, so I think I missed a jump scare that might have happened with the little girl first going to bed. So I missed that. But all the other spooky moments, I wish that they didn't show the monster as early as they did. I wish that they waited more to like the very, very end.
Fair.
Because I think that kind of took away from some of it. But when you first start seeing it, it's pretty spooky. For shakes, I'm going to give this a 3. It was fine. But I don't think it's really going to like stick around in my brain for too long.
Cool. Nikisha?
I would say 4 for skulls for the same reasons. I mean, they're in therapy, so that's why I give it a 4. They're trying. Scares, I'll also give it a 4 because there was a lot of good things with the tooth and the dream sequence and, you know, those kinds of things. Shakes, I'll also give it a 4. 4s across the board, you know.
Yeah.
It's just it's
Across the board.
So
4 across the board.
So I'm 5s across the board, actually.
Okay.
I'm a little
great.
more generous in that I think that, like, the therapy stuff and, like, it's trying. It's getting halfway there. It's not completing the circle. Scares. I got jumped a couple times during this movie. I don't know if that's the best way to play. Oh, my God, be careful. And then scares. I mean, shakes. Like, yeah, this was really solid. If you want a really a kind of spooky time in the movie, Jamie and I have worked out of things where we're like, wow, we didn't get scared once, like The Nun or something like that. That's trying to be ish this.
Oh, yeah.
But like this was real good. Is it Babadook? No. Is it? You know what I mean? But it is what it is. It's totally fine. So that's what I got.
Yeah.
Let's go with suggestions.
I mean, we've said it. I've already said it too, but Sir Robert Duke is my suggestion.
So
Robert Duke.
Jamie?
I went with Lights Out.
Okay.
Because if you're spooked of Lights Out, then you
Darky
should
dark.
watch Lights Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dark.
I think if you're interested in this movie and you haven't seen Smile, watch Smile first. It's way better.
Yeah.
It's way better in covering some similar stuff in a different way. I would buy Smile and Boogeyman in a 2-pack for sure.
In a 2-pack,
Boogeyman.
yeah.
Cool.
Grand. Cool. Well, that wraps up our episode of the Boogeyman, Boogie Woogie, Bugle Boy, Company B, Bugaboo. And you can follow us on all social medias at Talk Horror Pod, POD, on the Instagram, on the Twitter, on the TikTok. Help us continue with our followers, guys. We have a lot of followers on our TikToks, and thank you guys for all the support. So keep supporting us. Tell a friend to click that follow button as Brian is waving his hands.
Tell a friend to click that follow.
To tell a friend.
Tell a friend
Yes.
to click that follow. Yeah.
Beautiful. And where can they listen to us, Brian?
Wherever you get podcasts. So Stitcher, Spotify, of course, Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. What should we sign off with?
How do you...
Boogie Woogie, the Bugle Boy.
Yeah,
Company
Boogie
B.
Woogie,
That or Bugaboo?
Oh, yeah, of course.
You make me want to throw my
Bugaboo,
page
Bugaboo's
out the
gonna-
window.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.